Good morning. This is Joy Day morning. And I am Maitreya, the friend of all souls. I'm coming to you from Playa del Rey, California, which is just a little ways outside of Los Angeles. And this broadcast, this entire morning, is devoted to our Maitreyans in India, led by Krishna Chaudhuri, and also his worldly name is Prasad. Jai Bhagwanji. This is not formal. I'm not here to present a formal satsang or sanctuary meeting. I want to talk to you directly because you are undertaking a noble and important cause. And so I want you to understand what we do here. I also want you to understand who I am. So I'm going to begin by asking you to just bear with us for a moment while we blow the conch, ring the bell, and give the call to satsang, the call to sanctuary. We use satsang and sanctuary interchangeably. Sanctuary is something that is more understood by Western folks. Satsang is something that has a lot of superstition wrapped around it here. And I'm going to ask Ela to come forward. I'm going to ask Shanti to come in to the sanctuary hall. We have another room here where people sit and talk before. We don't sit and talk in the sanctuary hall. There should be two separate rooms if you can arrange it. This is Shanti Devi friend. This is Ela. Now, Ela is going to blow the conch, or try to, and Shanti is going to ring the bell that is in the back. You'll see a short video of that we've taken. We'll intersperse. We'll just interset it here. So would you please blow the conch? Now, we blow the conch because it is the traditional way of awakening the spirit and calling to the people to come to satsang, to sanctuary. And the four bells are for Satya, for Bhagavan, Sangha, Dharma, and Satya Yuga, in any order that you want to put them in. Most people put Bhagavan first. I am called Bhagavan, Bhagwan, Bhagwanji, Maitreya, Maitreya-ji. I am me. All of me. A little overweight too. So now, having done this, then we have what we call the call to sanctuary, which is going to be done by Ela. We'll do it in the Sanskrit language, and then we'll have someone come in and do it in the English language. You do not have to do it in the English language, but you should. This religion, for whatever reason God gave it to us this way, was given in the English language. I love the Sanskrit language. Some of it is Sanskrit. But we must preserve what God has given us as He's given it to us. So Ela, would you come up? And you'll notice where she stands and how she does this. First, kneel. Take a knee. We go down on one knee. We go down, on if possible, on the left knee with the right knee up. This is called, as you may have heard in football games and things like that, called taking a knee. Sometimes we do the full pranam all the way to the ground, but for this, we take a knee.
Satya Satyam lokasya dibaha Shruyatam Drishatam Kriyatam Uchatam Parapara Sharanam Agachati Bhagavan Sharanam Agachati Dhammam Sharanam Agachati Sangham Sharanam Agachati Satyayugam Sharanam Agachati Om Soham Tattvamasi Om Parapara Ki Jai Om Jai Bhagavan Ji.
And now Hila will come here and Tara will come up. Tara's our elder Maitreyan. She'll take a knee, pay respects.
Jai Bhagavan. Jai Bhagavan Ji.
And she'll stand and do the call in English. Now, normally people would be waiting for the call in English before they come in, but it's not that critical. Back up just a little. Huh? The call.
Truth is the highest religion. Truth is the light of the world. Let it be heard. Let it be seen. Let it be told. Come take refuge in Bhagavan. Come take refuge in Dharma. Come take refuge in Sangha. Come take refuge in Satyayuga. Om Jai Bhagavan Ji. Victory to God the Beloved. Victory to Maitreya, the friend of all souls. Jai Bhagavan Ji. Jai Bhagavan Ji.
Now that's the short form. And I'm going to have you come up and do the long form. You can do the short form or the long form. It's not that critical.
Truth is the highest religion. Truth is the light of the world. Let it be heard. Let it be seen. Let it be done. Let it be told. Come, take refuge in Prapara. Come, take refuge in Bhagavan. Come, take refuge in Dharma. Come, take refuge in Sangha. Come, take refuge in Satyayuga. Om Praparaji Ki Jai. Om, victory to Maitreya the friend. Victory to that beloved universal, I am that I am, which you are.
Thank you. You see, these things, while they're very important, it's the spirit that is truly important. So if you make a little mistake, don't worry about it. If you leave a little bit out, don't worry about it. This is our temple. This building is not our temple, this is our temple. Now you'll notice that it has the same emblem on it that the scroll has. The reason for this is very simple. You can use any yellow, for Maitreyans you use the yellow piece of cloth, I use the white piece of cloth. You don't have to have the emblem on the piece of cloth. But if you were to have to use this for a flag to signify that there are Maitreyans present, with the emblem on there, you can use it as a flag. But this is your temple. It is a temple that's available to all people, regardless of economic status. When it's over your head, you are in a holy sanctuary. This sanctuary is an outer representation of the inner sanctuary of your heart. I call it the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. So this room is like your body, and this is like the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. And when you seek to have spiritual solace, you enter the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, and you close the curtains. When you're through, you open the curtains, and you go back out into the world to do the work of a Maitreya. So this is a representation. Now, within the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, there are 3 lights. You notice the Holy Book of Destiny is on this side. This is Dharma. You notice that the blessings lamp is on this side, and that would be Sangha. That's the outer. So the right is the inner, the left is the outer. Down here you see 3 lights. The front light represents Maitreya, Bhagavan. The second light over here represents Dharma. The third light represents Sangha. You always begin the meeting with the 2 lights are already lit because you are the Sangha. And the Dharma is already here. Before lighting the central light, you always perform the Adhyatma Gayatri. It's a little bit different than the Gayatri you're used to. Om Bhur Bhuva Hasva. This is a little different. So I'll perform it for you so that you will know how it is done. I'm a little out of voice this morning, so don't be concerned about that. I will show you how this is done. Before approaching, you raise the shawl over your head, like so. You approach, you take a knee, as we call it. If you watch TiVo, you'll know what he does. This is taking a knee. Your hands come together in pranam at the forehead, and you offer respects to Paratpara, the one universal God of all creation. And if you're a Maitreyan, then you would offer respects to Bhagavan, Dharma, Sangha, and remember the holy Satya Yuga. The leader rises. Start with your hands this way. Bring your hands up because you're gathering the spirit of the universe. You bring them down. Om Hara Paratat Saviturenium Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Viturenium Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Hara Paratat Saviturenium Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Universal God, all radiant universal light, as we turn our minds to you, fill our hearts and minds and lives with your clear light. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us to the light. From death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Victory to that beloved universal I am, that I am, which you are. Having done this, you take the flame from the Sangha. You light the flame from the Sangha. And then you light up the light of Bhagavan, of Maitreya. Having done so, we raise it up. Ki Jai.
Paraparaji Ki Jai.
All victory and glory to God the Beloved.
All victory and glory to God the Beloved.
Please be seated. And this opens the holy sanctuary. This opens the satsang. It is now open. What happens now may be according to what is in the Holy Book of Destiny, one of the ceremonies that's in here. It also may be what I'm doing this morning. This morning I'm not going to do a formal worship. You see, as Maitreyans, you must live largely by divine guidance. And by that I mean you must live by the inner divine inspiration, insight, guidance, and revelation of Parakpara, the one universal God of all creation, who is all creation, who is within all creation, and yet who is beyond all creation, who also lives in your heart. And so this morning, as I was laying out my normal clothing, my divine guidance was to do this, to explain these things to you as much as possible. I can't explain it all to you here, but I can give you enough that you understand. So you must live by divine guidance. That is one of the two rules of our religion, to live by divine guidance. And while I have my hand up here, I want to make something very plain. You will hear Christians and other people say to you, God has a plan for your life. Have you heard that? If you haven't, then you haven't encountered it. It's very common. And what they mean is that they have a plan for your life. God does have a plan for your life. Parakpara has a plan for your life. And it is represented by this hand, open like this. This hand means freedom. Freedom! If you put it over your heart, it means my heart. Freedom in God. Freedom in Maitreya. Freedom in Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. The formal name of this religion, you see, is Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. Freely translated into English, it's God's eternal universal religion. The friend's way of the friend's way to self-realization. You should know these things. Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. What does this mean, this hand? The thumb stands for free will. You have free will. The first finger stands for free choice. By exercising your free will, you make free choices. The middle finger stands for self-determinism. In other words, that you have the divine right to determine your own destiny. Not to be a slave to some other man or some other woman. Not even to me. But you have the right to determine your own destiny. In fact, you must. By the immutable law of karma. The immutable law of cause and effect. You must determine your own destiny. And you determine what comes to you tomorrow by what you do today. This finger here stands for individual freedom. There are many people in your world today, some of them Marxists, some of them communists, some of them socialists, fascists, anyone who believes in tyranny, that will tell you that there can only be collective freedom. That is a lie. The only freedom that there is individual freedom. Let me ask you, who will have to suffer your karmas when you leave this world? You. Who makes your karmas while you're in this world? You. Whose dharma is unique? You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, you know, surely it is better to meet death in the doing of your own dharma than it is to have glory in doing the dharma of another. This doesn't mean we can't follow a common path. We can. But it means that your dharma is your dharma. Individual freedom. That's this finger right here. I'm pointing at it. And then there's this little guy here on the end. The one we don't like. The one people run from. Don't run from it. This finger represents absolute, inescapable personal responsibility for everything that you do, everything that you don't do, everything that you choose, everything that you don't choose. So this little finger means that whatever you do with these four, you have to stand up for it. When you leave, you'll either stand up for it in this world, or you'll stand up for it when you leave this world. And so we want to talk a little bit about what happens when you leave this world. Don't worry about following a logical sequence of events here, because think of this as, many of you are very familiar with computers. Think of this as a random database. I'm throwing this in there. When you need it, it will come out. If you have faith. So we need to know what happens to us. We're here. We came from somewhere. We're going somewhere. Here's what happens. Now this is not conjecture. I didn't get this from a book or from a guru or from a teacher. I got this by dying when I was 8 years old. And going into perfect final union with God. Far beyond nirvana. Nirvana isn't even near. It's farvana compared to perfect final union with God. Perfect final union with God is like a drop of water going into the ocean and becoming the ocean. It is the ultimate end of the journey. So where are we? We're here. We're in life. See? We're in life. Let me show you. I like to show people things. I like to show you because if you see, you remember. Okay? So I have this little board here. Somebody will tell me if that can be seen, please. Can this be seen on the screen? Over, she says.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So here we have life. This is the world. Okay, here's where we are now. Next we have death. No death. We can't escape it. No one escapes it. And in some of the scriptures it says, even the gods bow to Kala, to time. When your time is up, you have death. From death, where do you go? You go to hell. Everybody goes to hell. Nobody escapes it. The question is, how much pain do you have when you go there? If you have led a good life, if you have expiated your karmas, if you have done worship, done service, if you're a Maitreyan, your burden will be light. You know, they even say that Jesus, when he died, went to hell before he got to go to heaven. But his burden was light. I need a towel, please. Wipe this. But his burden was light, so he didn't suffer pain. If your burden is light, you don't suffer much pain in hell. If your burden is awful, then you will suffer tremendous pain. Because, you see, hell is not God's punishment. God doesn't punish us. He wants us to come home to Him. Hell is where we burn off our bad karmas. We burn them up. That's why it's represented by fire in the Christian religion. We burn them up. And when they're all burned up, when we're purified, then we go to heaven. What is heaven? Heaven is where we enjoy the bliss, the blessings of all of the good things that we have done. See, we've been purified. Now we get to enjoy our blessings. Everyone goes through this. No one escapes it. The Christian says that Jesus will strike out hell. If so, why did not Jesus strike out hell for himself? Why did he go there too? He says, they say that you can go straight to heaven. But they only think of one lifetime. If you realize that we live over and over and over and over again, you may escape hell this time, but think of the burden. Have you ever moved from one house to another? And you take all of your stuff with you? Well, think of what happens the next time you move. How much do you have to take with you then? We want to get rid of these burdens. We want to expiate these karmas, burn them up. Yes, it's painful. But better the pain now. A little pain now than a lot of pain later. And so, then we go to heaven. And some people say, that's where you stay. You see, everything beyond here is eternal. Everything is eternal. Why do I say that? I say that because time is a phenomenon of the physical life, of the physical universe. So when people say hell is eternal, they're right. But you don't stay there forever. When people say heaven is eternal, or paradise is eternal, they're right. But you don't stay there forever. So these are beyond the physical world, everything is eternal. So what? It's a temporary eternity, if you can think of such a thing. But there's something beyond this. You see this board? This board represents God. This board represents Paratpara. You notice there's nothing drawn on it because everything is drawn on Paratpara. You can't draw Paratpara on anything. So when you leave here, you are going to go by one of two routes. You're going to go this way, or you're going to go this way. That is not a banana, that is the moon. I'm not a good artist. So you're going to go by one of two routes. Now, you will notice that here there's a moon, right? I'm going down here, I'm going to put birth. But you notice that up here, by the path of the sun, there's nothing drawn, is there? Because the path of the sun leads home into perfect final union with Paratpara, the one universal God of all creation, who is all creation, who is within all creation, and yet who is beyond all creation. That is the end of the journey. There is nothing further. Right? So this is the path of the sun. The Christians have a saying that no man comes to the Father but by the Son. So when you leave here, you are going to go to one of two places. If you have expiated all of your sins, all of your karmas, every shred, and you have the highest blessing of God, or if you're a Maitreyan and you have God's new covenant, which I won for you by sacrificing my own perfect final union with God twice, and making a vow of compassion that I will never again take my own perfect final union with God until I have seen every last soul in creation safely home into perfect final union with Him before me. And because of that, God made a new covenant. A new covenant with all souls. That whoever receives the enlightenment of my holy initiation and follows me to the end of this life, God will give you what I sacrificed for your sake. I paid your ticket. Dear Krishna, I know you want to come to America. I can't afford to pay your ticket to America, but I paid your ticket home into perfect final union with God. And perfect final union with God is also perfect total freedom. Forever, beyond forever. See, these are eternal, but this is way beyond eternal. If I draw eternal on here, let's say I do like this, you can see that is drawn on parapara. But the board itself, if I erase eternity, the board remains, doesn't it? So you're going to go by one of these two paths after you are finished with heaven. If you go by the path of the moon representing woman, then you will come back again to be born again through a woman into life, to go through death, to hell, heaven. You see, you can go around this. You can go around this cycle forever. 1 billion times 1 billion. This is the only escape. There is no other. And I've won that for you. If you receive my holy initiation and the enlightenment of my holy initiation and God's new covenant and fulfill it according to God's decree, that whoever receives the true enlightenment of the Friend's holy initiation and follows him to the end of this life, I will give that soul the very perfect final union that he sacrificed for the sake of all souls. You will go home. And none of this will matter. You see, all of this is, if the whiteboard is parapara, the whiteboard is God, what difference does it make to the board whether I erase all of this? Look at this, it's going away. All of creation is going away. Creation is disappearing, hell is disappearing, heaven is disappearing. It's all disappearing.
Wow.
And yet, when it's all gone, what's left? Parapara is still parapara. This is what you want to be. And when you go home, like a drop of water falling into the sea, this is what you become. You become God. Not your ego. You have to give up your ego. Not your personality. You have to give up your personality. You don't like it much anyway, do you?
No.
You're just attached to it. Give it up. Go home into perfect final union. Perfect final union. I paid your price. I paid your ticket. I gave up. I sacrificed my own perfect final union with God twice. And I made a vow of compassion. And because of those two self-sacrifices and that vow of compassion, God made a new covenant. With all souls. That whoever will receive my holy initiation and follow me to the end of this life, none of this will matter anymore, because you will go home into perfect final union with God at the end of this life. At the end of this life. Do you understand? This is so important. This is so crucially important. But what about everyone else? What about your friends? What about your family? What about your loved ones? What about your countrymen? What about them? You see, there are two boats. There is the Hinayana and there's the Mahayana. The Hinayana means small boat. I have a little kayak. I have a canoe. And I'm rowing to God. And you're drowning. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're drowning, but I have to get to God. We are not the Hinayana. We're the Mahayana. And when I received this new covenant from God, He said, go and give this to all the people of the earth. And I said to Him, Father, for He is my Father, how shall I do that? And He said, I will make a supreme promise to you and to all souls, that when there are enough souls in the world who have received your holy initiation and are following you faithfully to the end of their lives, I will, and this is what Parapara said, I will spontaneously and without further judgment or qualification spread this new covenant into the hearts of all souls, and all souls will have the opportunity to come home into perfect final union with me. Why did he say opportunity? Remember the hand? Freedom! God has made freedom the most essential quality, or one of the most essential qualities of our soul. Of your soul. Of you as soul, as spirit. You see? And what is the soul? Very confusing for most people. It's important that you understand these basic concepts. You see this board? That's spirit. Right? Now, if I take and do this around it, and this is forgetfulness. This is ignorance. This is attachment to the things of this world. You see, you as soul are really spirit. You can see the whiteboard is still there, huh? Parapara is still there. You are spirit living in ignorance of your true self. What is enlightenment? What is self-realization? It is realizing that you are not this, but this. Now you can realize that while you're still alive. You can realize that while you're still in this world. That's called self-realization. When self-realization becomes totally fulfilled, it becomes perfect final union with God. And this is what I bring you. This is what I paid for. Nothing is free in this universe of creation. Nothing. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transmuted. According to physics. Nothing is free. Somebody pays the price. I paid your price. I bought your ticket. The train is waiting to take you through hell, through heaven, and on to perfect final union with God. The more good that you do in this world, the less baggage that you will have when you have to pass through hell. You can kind of think of hell like being TSA at the airport. You know, if you have a lot of baggage, you're going to spend a lot of time in TSA. They're going to pat you down, they're going to x-ray you, they're going to dig through your luggage and everything else. That's kind of like hell. Huh? But if you have no baggage, now don't go so far as the man who took all his clothes off last week. He said, you want to see what I got? He took his clothes off. By the way, they didn't arrest him because he wasn't doing something lewd, he was making a statement. But if you have no baggage, and you're wearing a tight jumpsuit, they're not going to bother you. See? But if you have a lot of baggage, it's going to be painful. That's like hell. I'm not saying that TSA is hell. But it's similar. If you're trying to get somewhere, isn't it? So, do what you can to expiate your sins and karmas in this world. The Christians say that Jesus can forgive your sins. Wonderful. Accept Him. But don't accept the book. He didn't write the book. Buddha didn't write his book. Even Muhammad didn't write the book, he dictated it. Now we hope that whoever heard what he said understood what he said as he meant it and wrote it down that way. But one thing that I can promise you, I wrote these 2 books myself. You may not like what's in them. A lot of people don't. A lot of people say bad things about me. But one thing I can tell you is that every word in these books are my own, and there is no other holy book in this world at this time that can claim that. Nobody wrote one other word in this book. I am responsible. Responsible. Remember the little finger. I am responsible for what is in this book. You can call it blasphemy. You can call it heresy. I call it the truth. Because it is the truth. It can't be the whole truth because God is far too big to fit in anybody's book. I don't care if you have the Encyclopedia Britannica. I don't care if you have the legal works of all the scholars. I don't care if you have the Library of Congress. God is too big to fit in a book. You can't reduce God to just mere words. How big is God? This is something that's important that you understand, because a lot of people will tell you that God is in heaven. Right? I've lost my pen. Okay, God is in heaven. Here's heaven. Okay, I ask you, is the whiteboard inside the circle?
No. Well, yes.
Is the whiteboard inside the circle? Yes, of course it is. Only a fool would say no. Of course the whiteboard's inside the circle. But is the whiteboard outside the circle too?
Yes.
So you see, God is in heaven in the sense that the whiteboard is inside the circle. But heaven is in God, because God is so much bigger. How big is God? If I had a grain of salt and you could see it, go get a grain of salt, if you have time, and look at it. You see that grain of salt? Do you know what that grain of salt is? That grain of salt is all of creation. All of creation. Now some of you are scientists. Some of you have studied astronomy and so forth. You know how vast the universe is. The black holes in space. All of this is creation. So here's creation. There's creation. See, there's creation. So if you think of creation as being one single grain of sand, God is the Sahara Desert. That's how big God is. How do I know that? Did I read that in a book? No, I didn't read it in a book. Did someone tell me that? No, someone didn't tell me that. Did I have a guru that taught me that? No, I didn't. I died. I became one with God. I know how big God is. Now, you think if this is all of creation, think of how small our solar system is. Our galaxy, our solar system, the Earth. How small is it? Even if you just use this comparison. And then, on the Earth, there's a city. And in the city, there's this building. And in this building, there's you. Compare yourself to God. What do you want to be? Do you want to be yourself, or do you want to be this? You want to be this. Because that is your true nature. Ignorance is the fact that you don't know that. Ignorance means that you are not constantly aware that you are not this body, not this mind, not this personality, not these feelings, not these pains, not these sins, not these karmas, but you are that one universal God whom has bid us to call him Parat Para. And sometimes we call him, because we love him, we say Parat Paraji. This is the religion that I bring you. It is a religion of freedom and liberation. Now, I'm not the smartest man on earth. In fact, I don't consider myself to be very smart at all. This is not a matter of intelligence. You don't have to be smart. How did I attain perfect final union with God the first time? Let me tell you how intelligent I was. Let me tell you how smart I was. I was sitting on a stairway, one flight up. My little brother grabbed me. I knew we were going to fall off the stairway, and so in an act of self-sacrifice, I put him on my chest and went backwards off of the stairs. I fell to the floor, hit the concrete with my head, and for a few moments of earth time, I was dead. How much intelligence does that take? In America, we have a saying, when something is really easy, we say it's like falling off of a log. Well, this was falling off of a log. I did nothing in this lifetime except try to protect my brother. And God, Parapara, took me into perfect final union with him. It's a long story. I can't relate it all to you. And then he said, sacrifice this. Go back for the sake of the suffering of all souls. And I said, yes. And I gave it up. And he said, now, the first time that I give this to you is by grace. Obviously, it's by grace. I didn't do anything except fall off a stairway. By the way, don't try this at home. It will not get you to perfect final union with God. So don't fall off a stairway. Don't jump off a building. You'll just go splat. And other people have to clean that mess up.
Yeah.
I'm being silly. But true. And so he said, now you go back and you find your own way back to me. Find the way back to me that all souls can follow. And I thought, because I'm a little bit of a stupid man, and I was a stupid boy before I became a stupid man. You know, an oak tree doesn't start out being an oak tree and end up being a peach tree. You start out being a stupid boy, you end up being a stupid man. But look at all the smart men. What are they doing to the world? They're destroying the world. So maybe it's good to be a stupid man a little bit. Huh? So he says, you find your way back. And being kind of a stupid man, I thought he meant I had to find a method. I had to find a way. I had to find a system by which to do this. And so for 23 years, I ran away from it. I ran towards it. You know what it means to run towards God and away from God. We all want to run towards God, but we always want to run away too. There's this division, this strain within us. But after 23 years, I found my way back home into perfect final union with God. By a method. I call it Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. The way of realization of the total oneness of the individual self, soul with God. And I was so proud. And I went back into perfect final union with God. And he said, now I want you to go back and finish what you started. And, you know, I am part Irish, part Scottish, part Italian, and part Bohemian. We never stop fighting with ourselves when we're like that. And so I said, Father, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. It took me all my life to get here. I want to stay here. And he said, it's your choice. Freedom is the highest quality of the soul. You choose. And in a moment of compassion for the suffering of all souls, I made that vow of compassion, that I would never again enter into perfect final union with him. I'll say it as I said it to him. I said, Father, I will never again enter into perfect final union with you until I have seen all souls, every last soul in this creation, safely home into perfect final union with you before me. But I will return to this world of suffering, sorrow, and death, and take up the body that I have left, and live in an ordinary body, subject to the ordinary ills, subject to the ordinary pains, the suffering and the sorrow, and the death of any ordinary person. Can you come in and shoot me and I'll die? Of course I will. My body will die, but I will still be standing here looking at you. Because I know who I am. But I made this vow. And I also said, I will return to this world and live in this ordinary body. And when this body lays itself down, then I will ascend into the spirit realm and live in the secret inner sanctuary of every soul's heart, guiding every soul home to you. All you have to do is call upon me. Bhagwanji, 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 and I will be present and abundant in the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, even now while I am still in this body. And I was ready to go back. I didn't do this because I knew God was going to do something. I didn't do this because I knew Parapara would do something. It wasn't like Parapara said, well, you do this and I'll give you that. That wasn't the way it was. I did it because it had to be done. And then Parapara said, because of your two self-sacrifices, of giving up perfect final union with me, and because of your vow of compassion, I make this new covenant with all souls, that whosoever receives the enlightenment of your holy initiation and follows you to the end of his life, I will give that soul what you have sacrificed for the sake of all souls, namely, exactly and precisely perfect final union with me. And that soul will never be born or suffer or die again, but will live beyond eternity in my own self, as my own self, as part of my own self, as a drop of water entering the ocean becomes the ocean. This is the fundamental basis of this way of life, of this religion. See, I thought that I had found the Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. Oh, you can follow the Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. Believe me, it's difficult. I had to be willing to sacrifice everything to make that final leap back into perfect final union with God. You can follow the Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. And I thought that was what I discovered. But it wasn't. Because not everyone could possibly follow the Adhyatma Yoga Dharma home to God. It's too rigorous. It's too difficult. So, that's why I said I was a stupid man. But what I did find is this. God's new covenant. Anyone, a person of no intelligence, a person of little intelligence, a person of great intelligence, a man, a woman, whether of the highest or the lowest caste, who has God's new covenant and will fulfill it, will go home into perfect final union with God at the end of this life. It's a game changer. It's a sea change. It's a paradigm shift for humanity. This has never existed before. I paid your price. Your ticket is right here. You see this little book? It's also in the big book. It's called Destiny. Does anyone have a metal book? This book is engraved in metal. This is 304 stainless steel. It will withstand everything except a nuclear explosion at ground zero. Burn this book if you dare. You will not. In this book is the essence, the heart, the soul of everything that we are. Within this book is the Holy Creed of our religion. Within this book is the holy doctrine of our religion. Within this book is the code. I call it the code of an Adhyatmawadi, the code of those who profess Adhyatma. In other words, myself and God. And within this book is also the method that I found. We call it the one instruction. It's also called Inner Divine Communion. There are only 20 of these in the world, and most of them are hidden. One of them is in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., in the American Rare Books History Collection. If you're there, you can go and see it, but they make you put on white gloves. You notice we have them here. Only 20 in the entire world. Now, I might make more if you need them, but I will never duplicate these. There'll be a slightly different metal. This is the way. This is what God has given, what Parakra has given us. Do you have to accept it? No. Can you force another person to accept it? No. You may not give this to another person by force, threat, coercion, intimidation, bribery, violence, or deception. Oh, you can try. You can hold a sword over a person's neck and you can say, accept it or I'll cut your head off. And the person says, I accept it. I won't give it. Every person who receives this new covenant, every one of you, I ordain you. I anoint you, I appoint you to be able to give it to others in my name. And when you give it in my name, if you give it justly and righteously, without force, threat, coercion, intimidation, bribery, violence, or deception, those 7 things, then I give it. And they will have it. No one can stop this. The sun of Satyuga has begun to rise. No one can stop it. Because no one knows who has all this. No one knows who has this gift. There are 1,000 people throughout the world right now who have this. Most of them we never see. Most of them we never hear from. But they can all give it to someone else. The glorious day of Satyuga has begun to rise, and the force of darkness is riling. You can see it. It's going crazy. People killing each other. People going nuts. The force of darkness is influencing people to do this. We are good at our core because we are all God at our core. But the force of darkness can influence the mind to do awful things. And that's what's happening today. It knows its days are numbered. It knows it's finished. Just like when the sun rises over here, the darkness must flee. Oh, it can fight. It can rile. It can tear up the world. But it can't win so long as there's one of you left alive with this gift in your heart to give to another. And that's what we're trying to do here. You see, God's supreme promise says, whenever enough souls have this new covenant and are living it out, are fulfilling it by following me to the end of their lives, what will He do? He will spread it into the hearts of all souls. We have a word for that. Divine critical mass. And when the world reaches divine critical mass, the Satya Yuga will burst forth in all of its radiant glory, and the force of darkness will be banished from the hearts, the minds of all people and from the world. And we will live in the glorious day of Satya Yuga again. The wheel is turning. But the force of darkness wants to make it miserable. It wants to make it terrible. It wants to make it horrible. It wants this man in Norway to kill little children. He was there when Hitler killed the Jews. He was there when Stalin murdered 50 million Russians because they wouldn't bow down to communism. He was there when Mao murdered 80 million Chinese because they wouldn't bow down to communism. They wanted their freedom. They wanted their freedom. Freedom! This is your sign, not this. This is the sign of communism. This is the sign of brutality. This is the sign of darkness.
Yes.
This is the sign of light. This is the Maitreyan sign. Jai Bhagwanji.
Jai Bhagwanji.
Jai Bhagwanji.
Jai Bhagwanji.
Jai Bhagwanji.
Jai Bhagwanji.
Make it your sign. Divine critical mass equals Satya Yuga and kills Kali Yuga. Destroys Kali Yuga and brings forth the holy Satya Yuga. So, we're at the point where we're almost going to have to stop here. And I want to stop by telling you that you must understand that I took an ordinary body when I came back here. I am suffering from prostate cancer. I have been since 2001. I'm fighting it because I have a lot of work to do in this world. I will die a normal death like most people. I could die in an auto accident. Someone could shoot me. Do not judge me. Do not judge God's eternal universal religion. Do not judge Adhyatma Yoga Dharma. Do not judge God's new covenant by the fact that I'm an ordinary man. When I get on the freeway, I sometimes have road rage. We had an interesting thing happen yesterday. A man pulled right out in front of us and then proceeded to give me the sign. You know the sign. Well, now in our religion, this finger is self-determinism, but I don't think he meant self-determinism. And so I turned around and did the same thing to him. Are you shocked? If you're shocked, then you won't be able to follow me. Because I do what God tells me to do. Now, why would God tell me to do that? I'll explain. We pulled into a parking lot of a store, and a black SUV pulled in. Not the same guy. And this guy sat there and sat there, so finally I got out of the car and he said, you know, you really need to get control of your anger. He was about 30-some years old. And I felt that he meant well, so I decided I'd talk with him. And he said, you know, when you do this, then you're increasing aggression in the world, and you need to get control of yourself and calm down. And I said, well, I'm not a smart man, but I am an educated man. I do have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I have a master's degree in behavioral sciences, which included sociology, anthropology, and psychology. I have a marriage family therapy license. I used to do therapy. I used to do counseling with people. Perhaps you could use a session if you're upset about what I did. And he went on, and he was sincere. I believe he's a minister of a local Christian church. And so he said, no, you're increasing aggression in the world. And I said, no, sir. When you succumb to aggression, when you do not meet aggression with strength, you increase aggression in the world. Suppose I had not given this man the self-determinism sign in response. And suppose he thought, well, I can get away with this with anyone. And suppose the next person that he did it with, or did it to, was a weak person. And he stopped and beat him up. People need to know that they must stand responsibility for their evil acts. And sometimes we have to stand up and provide the evidence that that is true. You're not going to get away with this. You may beat me to death, but you will not get away with this. In our country, we have tolerated gangs. Oh, we must tolerate gangs. You see, America is caught up in a fanaticism of minorityism. If a person is a minority, they can do no wrong. Only the majority can do wrong. Well, we don't want the minority to be set upon or discriminated against, but this is wrong. This is wrong. And so, because most of the people in Los Angeles come from Hispanic or Latino countries, we have to tolerate it. And the gangs have grown and grown and grown until at last count, we count that there are 350,000 gang members in Los Angeles County alone. That's 3 armies, 3.5 armies. An army is 100,000 men. They're thoroughly armed, many of them very brutal. When you tolerate evil, you increase evil. And this is what I told this man. And finally I said, how old are you, sir? He said, I'm 32 years old. He said, well, I'm 69 years old. Perhaps in the next 30 years, I won't be here, but perhaps in the next 30 years you will realize that by bowing to wrongness, by bowing to evil, you increase it. Gandhi knew this. People say, oh, but Gandhi was peaceful. Was it peaceful to do the Salt March and have people get their collarbones broken and their ribs broken and be taken to the hospital? They just didn't use weapons against the other people of physical nature. But they made them use the weapons. They wouldn't stand for evil to go unchallenged. And we must not either. We must challenge the force of darkness. We must challenge the Kali Yuga, wherever we find it, and move humanity in the direction of the Satya Yuga. By what? Not by the gun, not by the sword. Although, if you have to protect your family, if you have to protect your community, if you have to protect your country against injustice, against tyranny, then you do what you have to do and take personal responsibility for it. Don't say God told you to kill another man. God never tells you to kill another man or a woman. If God wants a man or a woman to disappear, they're gone. See, here's a bad man right here. Okay? And if God, he doesn't need you to shoot him or cut his head off. If God wants him gone, he just goes like this and he's gone. Huh? So don't say that God told you to do it, but there are times if someone's coming in to slaughter your family, even Gandhiji. Read the real readings of Gandhi. He said any man who wouldn't stand up and defend his family is not worthy of being a man. And he was one of the most nonviolent people on the planet. So I talked to this man for about 15 minutes. And finally I said, "Sir, think of this. If I hadn't responded to this man as he responded to me, you never would have come here and we never would have had the chance to meet." God knows what needs to be done. And with that, we shook hands and he didn't have anything more to say and he drove off. Did I want to do this? I don't want to make that sign to people. But I do not. It says in our code, we will not aggress against any other man or woman, but we will not shrink from aggressors. It also says in our code of nonviolence that when any man who has attacked us ceases his attack and repents and accepts paratpara and our religion, we will welcome him as a brother no matter what he's done. I can't give you the whole religion. I can't give you the whole thing in this one sitting. But I do want you to understand I'm an ordinary man in this world. But I am Maitreya, the Kalki Mahavatara Satguru of the age beyond this world. Not because I made myself that through any grand gesture, not because I am such a wonderful person or I did such great things in this life, but because paratpara is great. Because paratpara is great. And it is his will that I do, not my own. And with that, I will move this out of the way so that we can close this satsang. You who are in, excuse me, in India, I told you I was a lot of voice. Write to me. I'm not sitting on the top of a mountain someplace. Pick up the phone, call me. Let us talk. I wish I could bring you all here, but their work is there. India is the birthplace of all religions, all true religions. Do you know that even the Jewish religion originated in India? The Jewish people hate me when I say this, but it's true. When they say Abraham came out of the mountains and started the tribes of Israel, do you know what the original spelling of that was? It was Abraman. Abraman came out of the mountains and started the tribes of Israel. India, the birthplace of all religions. You are there. I'm here. My work is here, your work is there. Thanks be to paratpara and to Bill Gates that we can communicate this way. Otherwise, we would never touch one another. But I am always one single thought away from you in the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. And when you wish me to be active within the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, turn therein and call out within your mind, Bhagwanji, 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 and I will become active within the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, and we can commune together there just as we could step together and pull the curtain on this shrine. Nothing separates us. Time can't separate us. Space can't separate us. Death can't separate us. Someday I'll leave this world, but I'll still be in the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. This world is a passing phenomenon. It goes that fast. Treasure it. Live it the best you can, but don't become attached to it because it won't last. So I thank you for what you're doing. Do good. But don't forget this. It's good to feed people. It's good to house people. It's good to clothe people. It's good to help people relieve their physical suffering. But no matter what you do, the only thing that's going to last is if you give them God's new covenant through my holy initiation and lead them to follow me to the end of their lives so that they can receive perfect final union with God and live in perfect total freedom for beyond all eternity. Eternity in God is that long. My fingers are dry. That long. That's how long eternity is in God. Someday we'll meet in person, I hope. Although my life is getting a little short. And if we don't meet in person in the body, we will certainly meet in person in the spirit. I'm going to close this now so that you'll know how to close it. Whatever goes on in between, you can do arati, you can do singing, you can do dancing, you can do whatever expresses your love for Parapara and this religion. And if so, if you choose myself, in between these two things, but begin it and end it this way. All victory and glory to God the Beloved.
All victory and glory to God the Beloved.
And in finishing, we do this motion. Touch your fingertips to your forehead, to your mouth, then over here to your heart, and then to the center. And say, Om Soham Tatvamasi. Om, you and I are one with the one universal God of all creation and no other. Jai Bhagavanji, victory to God the Beloved, that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.
Jai Bhagavanji. 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 Jai Bhagavanji.
Jai Bhagavan Ji. Jai Bhagavan Ji. Jai Bhagavan Ji.